We are going to talk a little bit about the man who won the AL MVP last night. That was a huge, huge topic of discussion throughout the entire second half of the season. Of course, it ramped up the last few weeks. It's Judge's second consecutive victory, also his third overall. He's the 13th player to be named MVP at least 3 times. Of course, we know he won it over Cal Raleigh. Erik, I know what your thoughts were. I know you wanted Cal to win it. I believe you said that yesterday or the day before. Didn't you say you wanted Cal to win it? What were your thoughts last night?
Don't pretend to know my thoughts. Okay? Don't
You
pretend
said it. I listened.
Just because you listened to the show, just because I said Cal Raleigh should win
lying?
It, doesn't mean I didn't pick Aaron Judge. So this is the best way to be. If any of your students are listening, this is the best way to be right all the time. You can say who you think should win and then who should win, and either way, you're going to be right. Look, I'm not going to sit here and defame Aaron Judge for the historic season he had. Obviously, as a catcher, I understand what Cal Raleigh went through, and as an outfielder, KP understands what Judgy did. Judgy wins this. Should have been his 4th MVP, really, if you go back and look at his numbers, some of the years he didn't win. There's so many things that can be said about him, but all that he does on the field, he is that much better of a person. So it's so cool to see. Anytime an ex-teammate gets something like this, gets an award, gets recognized for something, like, it's so well deserved. And it's crazy to think he had that much better of a season than Cal Raleigh when Cal Raleigh had an historic season. So, and good for the voters. I thought the voters did an amazing job.
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I was kind of on the same page as you. Early on, I said I wanted Cal to win. I felt like what he did was historic. But I also don't think we should, fault a guy if he's winning an MVP every year. I think, when it came out yesterday and I looked at Aaron Judge's numbers, and I think someone talked about it, it's a video game number. What he did is historic in itself, too. And like Kratz said, he's an unbelievable player, unbelievable human, a great ambassador for the game. And I think we're witnessing one of the greatest players to ever play this game. I think we're very fortunate, and I hope people don't take it for granted what Aaron Judge is doing, at his size, his structure, to be able to go out and hit 330 in a game where no one talks about batting average and it's not important, but it was important for him. And the guy's on base nearly half the time. It's unbelievable what he's able to do. And I feel like he's only getting better. We always talk about guys as they age, they're supposed to decline. He's only getting better. And I think that I wouldn't be surprised if he wins another one next year. That's how good he is.
I mean, it's a credit to him for wanting to improve, for wanting to have a batting average. And, he still had 53 home runs. After a year where he had 58. The year before, he had an injury because of the concrete at Dodger Stadium. And before that, it was 62 homers. Like, he's not afraid of trying to improve when he's already at the top. He is the top. And so that's when it's dangerous. When you have a physical specimen, when you have a guy who is already just driven in a different way than other people, and then you go ahead and say, oh, he's doing this in New York, where a lot of people fade, a lot of people can't handle the spotlight. And it's like, well, if it wasn't for the rigors of New York and all the stuff that really goes into being the captain of a team, no, he's continued to improve. And I can't, there isn't words to say other than you need to go out and watch what this guy's doing. Because last night when they announced he won the award, we started going through my kids' stats, like on Game Changer and stuff like that. And my daughter was like, wow, I had a really good fall. She was like, my OPS was, and she didn't even know what OPS was until last night when I was telling her. And she was like, my OPS was 1.143. She was like, she looked over the screen. She goes, Judge beat my OPS by 1 point in the big leagues. It kind of like, it kind of was a full circle moment for a 13-year-old. And it shows what this guy is doing is really video game stuff.
Yeah, and it's not to say he doesn't have guys around him, but Kratz, as a catcher, anytime you're playing the Yankees and you go into scouting reports, don't let Aaron Judge beat us. And still, he finds ways to hit for a high average, hit home runs, And he missed what? I think he missed over 2 weeks this year with the elbow injury. So his numbers could have been even better from the power production standpoint.
Yep.
So I think both, like, one of the things that, like, I think you can do is you can say both can be true, right? They both had incredible seasons, and it doesn't take away from Aaron Judge's season when you say you thought Cal Raleigh should have won the MVP, because that's what I thought, right? I don't think that of course, Aaron Judge had a historic season, but when I think MVP, I think who was the most valuable player for that team. And in my opinion, Cal Raleigh was the most valuable player for his team. He's a switch hitter. Obviously, he did what he did at the plate, but catching that pitching staff too at the level that he did, to me, all encompassing, Cal Raleigh was the MVP for his team. But that's not saying that Aaron Judge's season wasn't obviously historic and impressive. But I think both can be true. But when you think about, which is actually what a lot of the voters said when they talked about why they voted for Cal Raleigh, because some of the voters, guys, released why they voted for who they did, which I love. I love that. If you voted in this, you need to explain yourself, and we need to know, and we do, right? For these people who explain themselves, why they voted for Cal, why they voted for Aaron, right? So Tyler Kepner talked about how he voted for Cal because it's important to honor history when it happens. And Raleigh's home run, 60 home runs, set not one single season record, but two. And then he mentioned how he did it across 705 plate appearances, which is, quote, a staggering total for a backstop. So I guess, KP, for me, when you look at these voters releasing their reasons, how much do you value when they decide to say, this is who I voted for and why?
I love it. I mean, I always think about the Hall of Fame ballot, and people don't want to, sign their name on the ballot and make them public. Like, I think when you have the right to be a voter, I think it's cool to be able to explain yourselves, because not everyone's going to have the same opinion. I always try to argue with people on Twitter or X all the time. Like, I always say, this is my opinion. Like, you can't argue with my opinion because this is how I feel. So when these people come out and have a vote and they explain themselves, I can't argue with what he's saying. I just think the MVP across all sports has turned into who's the best player. When you talk about a person's value, it's really hard to quantify a player's value. Obviously, I would say as an outfielder, I'd like to think I was really valuable, but a catcher is obviously the most valuable person on a baseball field. They have to hit, they have to handle a pitching staff. They have 13, 14 guys. They have to know, what their out pitch is, what makes them tick, what makes them successful, how to get them back in the zone. For a catcher to do what he did is historic. And I'm not one here to say that everyone deserves a trophy, because we live in this world where everyone feels like they should be a winner. But I wouldn't have disagreed if they had co-MVPs this year, because I think what Cal did deserved to be an MVP because of the historic context of what he did. But it shouldn't take away from what Aaron Judge did, because it's arguably one of the best offensive seasons we've ever seen.
Kratz Pop Quiz. What has 35 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, 27 essential vitamins and minerals, comes in excellent flavors like, of course, chocolate, vanilla, but chocolate peanut butter, my favorite, no added sugar, gluten-free, under $5 per meal, and is ready to drink.
Go out the house, get yourself a Huel. Look at you. You even have one right there. Ready to smack that, John? Chocolate peanut butter, chocolate, and vanilla. Deliciosos.
Also, there is a new Daily Greens ready to drink, 42 vitamins, minerals, and superfoods. Only 25 calories on that one, 4 grams of fiber. There's flavors like blueberry, apple, peach. Huel makes healthy eating simple. They also just launched into Target stores nationwide. Try both products today with 15% off your purchase for new customers with the code FOUL at huel.com/FOUL. Use that code FOUL and fill out the post-checkout survey to help support FT.
What we want to also talk about is what we all knew was going to happen, and that is Ohtani winning NL MVP. Of course, we know it marks only the second time a player has won MVP awards in 3 consecutive seasons. Erik, I'm not going to ask you to react to him winning. Obviously, we all knew that was going to happen. But when you do look at Ohtani winning unanimously, what comes to mind about his season and what he did?
I think we're going to get watered down with Ohtani stuff. I think he's watering down what he is accomplishing. 3 straight MVPs, awesome. The fact that this year he was doing what he did offensively while rehabbing. Next pitcher we have on that has had an injury ever in their career Talk about the fact that, you had to rehab and like it's a grind of a year. Like we had Shane Bieber on. He's like, there's some days where you're not sure if you're going to feel good. There's some days where you're like, whew, I pushed it. I need extra recovery. You know what Shohei did? He let off that game. And then he had to redo it again. And I get it. Some people are going to troll and be like, well, he only pitches once a week. He's all this stuff. Like, stop. Just because Shohei, the rest of the league is not watering down Shohei. Shohei is watering down what Shohei has done. And this is his award for the next 8 years that he is under contract with the Dodgers. Until he proves that he can't, A, hit and pitch, and his hitting then goes down, that he can't run the bases, that he can't, this is his award. I'm sorry. I want to look at the odds for next year, but I'm going to throw some money down if it's plus money, because he might be the first negative money that I've ever seen for a MVP award, because he's going to stay healthy and he is going to win the award if he finishes an entire season.
Yeah, I think it's crazy too. You talk about the 3 straight MVPs, and they've all been 3 different types of years. Obviously, the first one he pitched and hit. Last year he didn't pitch at all. And we watched him go out and do something that's never been done in the history of the game and go 50-50. And then this year he has to rehab, work his way back, doesn't make any minor league starts because he's the leadoff hitter. He's their most valuable player. And then he goes out and pitches the way he does. It's incredible what he's able to do. And to your point, Erik, I hope people don't get bored of watching what he does, because I don't think we'll ever see anyone like him ever again.
No, you definitely don't want to take for granted what these guys are doing. And you don't want to take for granted what a guy like Judge is doing either, even though we did talk a lot about what Cal Raleigh did. But guys, one thing I want to pose to you: how thankful do you think that Aaron Judge is that Ohtani signed with an NL team?
Oh, so much. So much. I mean, Ryan O'Hearn said it on the show when Devers got traded. When Devers got traded to the Giants, he was like, I just moved up in the DH discussion for the All-Star game. Obviously. But I would have loved to have seen that conversation, because we had that conversation and I thought Shohei did a little bit more than Judge the one year where Judge hit 62. So that conversation would be fun to have too. But yes, he's super juiced because you're just not beating Shohei. He's the best player in the game.
I agree. I mean, he's got to be thankful. I mean, does it take away from Aaron Judge's greatness if Shohei's still in the American League and Aaron Judge doesn't have 3 or 4 MVPs? Maybe, when it comes to Hall of Fame ballots and, who we put up there as some of the greatest players. But I think he's very thankful they're in different leagues, because it's these 2 guys' awards to win until someone figures out how to take it from one of these guys. And I don't know who's the guy who's going to be able to do it. In the American League, I could see a guy like Bobby Witt putting together a historic season and maybe figuring out a way to steal an MVP from Aaron Judge. But we just watched Cal Raleigh do something that's never been done in the history of the game, and Aaron Judge still won. So I think it's these 2 guys' awards until these guys decide that they don't want to win anymore.